It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 281. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Mm-hmm.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Mm-hmm.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
So, I'm back. I was sick last week, and I'm still kind of sick this week, and I'm hoping my voice holds throughout the show. Sure. So, here's hoping. Also, Tam, you did an excellent job, other than the show number thing, but we fixed it. But now we're actually recording 281, so, life's good.
Are we really?
Yeah,
are we sure?
Oh, wait, you listened to all of that?
I listened to all of it. Yeah. I did.
Sorry for ragging on your favorite movie.
It's not my favorite movie. I would probably put it in the number 3 slot.
Okay.
I mean, it's, it's still, Empire Strikes Back is still my favorite. Rogue One is my second favorite. And then this is probably in the 3 slot, but I don't know. I've only seen it once. It is gonna vary based on, repeated viewings. But the real lesson of this week is I don't care about the Last Jedi versus Rise debate, because our Lord and Savior, Datalorian, and the Yodeling are here to stay.
I thought we were just gonna say Jon Favreau, but sure, yeah, I can go with that one. Although, really, Taika Waititi. I need Taika Waititi to direct more Star Wars.
He just needs to direct every movie.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I am utterly here for more stormtroopers just being exhausted.
that was so good. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of us, there's probably some of us who still haven't seen, so we won't go into much detail. Yeah. But Mandalorian wrapped up. It was good. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. And it is the Star Wars that I really want to see more of.
It is, yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, I had a feeling listening, people were going to be like, oh, hey, Belle's going to be mad about whatever we said. But, I had a long conversation with Grace afterwards, and I'm like, that way you feel about Rise? That's kind of how I felt about Return of the Jedi. I wasn't angry at the movie. I was just disappointed, and it wasn't what I expected. And she's like, yeah, if that's how you felt, I am sorry. Because it feels real bad. No, Rise of the Skywalker, sorry.
Return of the Jedi or The Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi, which did I say?
Return.
Oh, yeah, no, Last Jedi.
I thought you were ripping on some Ewoks.
No, I mean, and Return of the Jedi is my least favorite of the original movies.
Yeah.
But, the thing is I don't really have any bile towards Last Jedi. I mean, I've reached a point where, I'm at peace with it. It is the movie it is. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it was, really important for some people, and that's cool. I am down for there being different kinds of Star Wars for different people.
Mostly I haven't read outside opinions on this, but I did read one today that said that Disney didn't do a great job of making this into an actual trilogy.
No, it's a really unbalanced trilogy. I would have rather seen a Rian Johnson trilogy or a J.J. Abrams trilogy. I really don't like this tonal whiplash of shifting directors in the middle and then shifting right back.
I mean, weren't the original trilogy under different directors?
Yes.
Were they not all
because
George Lucas?
No, he got other people to direct the second and third ones. That's why they're not terrible.
But there was more continuity. It's the lack of continuity that...
I think that's the big thing is the original trilogy, George Lucas was heavily involved in all 3. And this trilogy, J.J. Abrams wasn't involved in the second one. And Rian Johnson wasn't involved in the third one. And they clearly had different visions. Disagreements. So,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that was the biggest problem I had with Last Jedi, was just the the tonal whiplash of the movies and the throwing away of the mystery boxes that were set up. Even though, like, as you're saying, the mystery boxes were empty, like, I wanted them to go somewhere. And I remember when Force Awakens first came out, there was a theory floating around that Rey was going to be a Palpatine. And, like, it was something I thought was interesting. Like, it seemed like it had a nice balance there. So you had the Skywalker was the bad guy and the Palpatine was the good guy this time. So it made sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, I just want more Mandalorian. Like, that's what I want. I'm happy to say goodbye to the trilogy at this point, which is something I wasn't expecting to be able to say. But, like, at this point, I'm just happy to say goodbye to the trilogy or the saga.
I'd like to be in a place again where we can get more stuff that explores other parts of the Star Wars galaxy.
Yep.
Maybe even with completely other characters.
Oh God, please.
Yes.
I'm really hoping what I want is the Old Republic trilogy to be really good, because it's my favorite setting by far. Like, there was a game that came out, I don't know, at some point over the last decade, or maybe a little bit before the last decade, and it was set in the Lord of the Rings universe, and it was about a different group of characters.
The Third Age.
Yeah, it was set in the time of the Lord of the Ring movies and novels, but it was a totally different group of characters.
Yeah,
so,
the game is called Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
Okay. I didn't remember the name of it, but it was a cool game. Like, I liked it because it was kind of cool. Like, it's a movie about people that are in this same setting, but, like, doing other stuff. Like, they're not the characters you're expected to be rooting for, and I would like to see more Star Wars movies like that. I think that's why I like The Mandalorian so much, is it's just a wholly new group of people. But at the same token, I think, I don't know, like, I'm kind of, the biggest thing that I'm sad about the ending of the saga is it probably means that we're also not going to ever see Finn and Rey and Poe and Rose and this new crop of characters that basically they're gonna be put to bed with the original characters, and I kind of feel like that's maybe a tragedy, because I really do like the new characters.
I suspect that we will see more of them in different context. He says, having looked through Disney Plus and seen the cartoon that is basically Poe the show.
Yeah, I mean, Resistance is really good. Like, the animated properties have always been really good.
It's true.
And
I don't know about always.
Okay, like
post prequels.
Yeah.
First season of Clone Wars was not great. After that, it was really good.
I mean, I'm going
Rebels
back even further than that.
Was really good.
Ewoks and droids were cartoons that happened.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that you can say about them. They definitely happened.
They were a thing. They had really interesting figures.
These are old enough that I didn't know about them.
They both lasted, I think, exactly one season.
And now I'm scared to look them up.
You
they were not
probably
good.
shouldn't.
Oh, they're fantastic. You should definitely look them up.
They were so bad that they're good now.
I kind of feel like Ewoks might have lasted 2 seasons. I'm
it did.
Pretty certain droids only had 1, though.
Yeah, they were. I don't know. I think they were maybe on CBS.
Oh yeah, they were very Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, and
yeah, Ewoks had 2 seasons.
I remember loving the Ewoks made for TV movies because I was a kid and I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're fine.
So okay. After hearing my take on things, is it like more reasonable than you were expecting it to be?
Your take?
Yeah, on the last week's conversation.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but we had a broad range of opinions already going into last week's conversation.
Yeah. So I don't know what this first topic's about. Tam, a short hike.
It's a short hike.
It's a short hike.
It is pure delight in game form.
I don't even know what this is. Explain to me what this is.
This is a short hike. I forget what else. I feel like there's a group that did this game, that did other games that I Who made it? I forget who made it.
A very indie Atomiguru.
Oh, I felt like it was a studio that had made something similar. But imagine Animal Crossing, or the way it was pitched to me, which is what got me to pick it up, was imagine Animal Crossing except with a point.
Oh, okay.
So you're the bird. You're like this bird girl.
This bird appears to be a 3D rendition of a Night in the Woods character.
Yes,
Which kind of looks like Drinky the Crow, but less drinky.
But she's on this like national park island, and there's no cell reception, and she's waiting for a phone call. And the only place where there's any cell reception is the top of the mountain. So you got to take a short hike up to the top of the mountain. And along the way, there's a whole bunch of other people that are just doing stuff. And sometimes they might want your help with stuff, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they can help you out. And you just sort of wander around this island, meeting other animal people and doing stuff with them, as much or as little as you like.
That's kind of funny, because like the way you described it is also how I remember describing Dragon Quest Builders as being Minecraft with a purpose.
Yeah.
And maybe this would sell me more than Animal Crossing has, because like Animal Crossing in general, I am fine with for a few minutes, and then I get bored with it because I am not keyed into whatever mindset just wants to have animal friends.
Yeah, this is a little bit more goal oriented, and it helped me with it. It helped me like enjoy it, because you just sort of wander around, and like the game actively tries to get you lost. Like it works real hard at just trying to get you to be a little bit, just to get you like drawn a little bit off of the path and go down some crazy other path rabbit hole. Like I doubt I've seen more than like 30% of the playable space, because it's huge. It's a lot bigger than I realized. But like there's a bunch to do, and it's super ultra charming. It has a personality that I describe as all lowercase with exclamation points. And also that's how most of the text is presented, which really helps the feel. But it's just like, it's cheerful and enthusiastic, and it's got a bunch of charming characters, and it's really just fun to run around in. And it's like 2 hours. Like it's quick, it's quick, it's fun. It's just super enjoyable.
Yeah, I played a little bit of it. It's a lot of fun. It definitely, it's weird, like unlocking a couple of things, but it mostly just feels like, because I had this described to me as a chill Zelda game, which I don't know. I'm not quite getting that feeling of a Zelda game when I play it.
Oh no, I mean, I guess in the camera angle sense, like it's isometric.
So I haven't played this game, but the only comparison I saw so far was people like climbing in Breath of the Wild, and this has climbing.
Yes, it does.
This has way better climbing than Breath of the Wild, mostly because it's shorter. Also, you can fly, because you're a bird. Like, it's my favorite part. You can get around by flying, because you're a bird. Which is hilarious, because there's other animals that are like, oh hey, this would be really hard, but I guess you're a bird, so it's not that hard for you. But yes, it's like, I think Void described it as a palate cleanser, and it's really, I like that description a lot, because it's just short and delightful. It's got some chill music. You can just kind of enjoy yourself for an hour or two. I've played time 72 minutes, and I might go back to explore it more thoroughly, but I did beat it and get to credits. And it was cute and nice and enjoyable and made me feel good.
That sounds kind of great. It also kind of sounds like that Kind Words.
It's kind of like that, in that it's just sort of, I mean,
not like
pleasant.
A direct comparison, but like it's a thing you can go do and enjoy yourself, and then also walk away whenever you're done with whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because like with Kind Words, I had a couple of really good days just writing messages to people, and then I've not touched it since.
Yeah. And this is like, you hop in, you'll run around for a bit, it'll be nice, and then it'll be done, and it'll feel good.
I feel like this has been the week of revisiting things, because the next topic is revisiting something, and I think this is also a you topic, Tam.
That's true.
Because you sent me a message saying, oh hey, have you tried Battlefront 2? its campaign mode is actually rather good. And I have not, but I did pick it up for this purpose.
They made a big deal about that when it was coming out, because it was about the rise of the First Order.
Yeah, I never really picked it up because Battlefront 2 got blasted, and...
Right. Fully so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the single-player campaign is a thing.
Yeah, and that was the thing, was like, I've been hungry for Star Wars content, and so I've been like...
into the Old Republic?
I have played, I have actually not quite caught up, but I've caught up to the most recent content in the Old Republic as of today. I don't know what I would say about that. It's content you can play. It's content you can play. It's not terrible. It doesn't light my world on fire.
It's worth a rather hearty. It's fine.
Yeah. For the like, it's pretty good for the size of the team that is working on it, which is, that's laudable by itself. But I hopped into, because I'd heard that Battlefront 2 had a single player campaign, and it was like $10 this week. So I was like, whatever, I can play, even if it's like short and not good, it's $10. Like, I've spent $10 on stupider things. So if it's terrible, whatever. It's actually pretty good. You play as Eden Versio. She's an Imperial trader. The game opens up at the Battle of Endor, and like, I really enjoyed it. It spans the time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, and you bounce around, because like the multiplayer of Battlefront 2 is you play as like a basic Rebel soldier or a basic Imperial soldier, basic whatever the sides are and whatever the conflict that has been set up is, and then the like equivalent of kill streak bonuses or whatever is you get to play as, like, if you live long enough or do enough things or hit enough objectives, you build up a score, and you can use that score to, much like buying guns in Counter-Strike, you can buy, like, I'm going to play as Luke Skywalker for a while or whatever, some hero character relevant to your side, which is cool. Like, it's a cool concept. I don't really play much multiplayer.
Did they ever put in a way for you to test out those characters? Because
yes.
my key problem with the first game was you kind of just got handed a hero character without knowing anything about them. And like, you're in the middle of a map and like, oh shit, I'm now Leia. Hope I can figure out what the hell Leia does.
Yeah. They added a bunch of stuff to fix that, including like a whole, like, single player has a variety of modes, one of which is set up a custom map or like try a custom hero, and they even have, here are some missions you can do to practice the heroes, which is nice. And it also wins points for having my favorite starfighter combat since Rogue Squadron. Like, even in multiplayer, their starship combat was fun. Because they do a thing that I wish more team battle games did, where whenever you're playing, depending on the map you're playing on, and I think some like on the ground maps do this too, but all of the starfighter maps do, there's you and your team of players, and you're all ace pilots. And then they flood the map with AI controlled other ships that do AI controlled stuff, and you fly around shooting those too. But it makes the maps feel a lot more busy, and you also like actually get to shoot other ships, even if you're bad.
I've not played a Battlefield game in God knows how long, at least not multiplayer. And I remember that was always the problem with the early Battlefield games, is it felt like you were having to run forever to find anyone on these giant maps. And it would have been so much better if you had a mix of NPCs that are just like all over the place that you can kill easily, and players that present a tougher challenge.
Yeah. And that's what Battlefront does, and it's pretty great. Like, it feels a lot better than other similar games that I've played. But anyway, so you have these other characters that you can, these like hero characters that you can play as. And so when you're going through the single player campaign, you're basically hopping around. The majority of missions are you playing as Eden Versio, but then there's a bunch of other missions that are other hero characters that you're hopping into and playing as, and like you do a whole mission as Leia, you do a whole mission as Han Solo, you do a mission as Lando. There's a ton of voice acting. So like there's a ton of voice acting, and then also the mission objectives. The mission objectives reflect the character that you're playing. So like when you're playing as like Eden or as Leia, who are both like competent military commanders, your mission objectives are go to location, rendezvous with person. When you're playing as Lando, trying to figure out how to make some controls work, it's like objective, hit a button. Objective, hit another button. Objective, just shoot the thing. So it's got a pretty good feel to it, and it also captures the feel of Star Wars like blaster fights, because there's always that weird like I guess it's easy not to think about it too hard, but there's like Han Solo defending the Millennium Falcon is just standing out in the open at the bottom of the ramp. That's fine. That's just a thing. But like the mechanics of the game felt like they encouraged me to do that, because blasters aren't like pinpoint accurate. They're accurate enough. They feel a little clumsy and random, but like in a good way.
It's appropriate.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But it's pretty fun. Flying around in ships was really fun. I actually liked the story. The story does a nice job of covering like the space in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Just being like, what was going on?
Yeah, it's on my list of things to play. Because like this break, I've been trying to play other things, much to the chagrin of Thalen, who is guilt tripping me to go play more Destiny.
Yes.
This may make a reasonable segue point. Like, so I watched all the Mandalorian. We talked about it being great. I watched all of the Witcher series on Netflix, and it was also freaking great. I have a weird past with Witcher games. Like, I've tried to get into them in the past, and usually it's the interface that's a problem. And for whatever reason, I bounced off of Witcher 3, but I'll talk about that more later. But it got me thinking today, and I started a Twitter thread on it, and I apparently phrased it wrong. Talking about video game adaptations as movies or television series, and there's not been a lot of good ones in the sense that they're true to the subject.
Even though this isn't a video game adaptation?
Even though this isn't a video game adaptation. I keep getting corrected by this, but I call bullshit on that. And there's a reason why. Like, there's a serious reason why.
Because nobody had heard of The Witcher before the games?
Right, nobody had heard of The Witcher before the games. So, yeah.
I will absolutely grant you that one.
And also, the author has taken to using art from the Witcher game series for the novels. The ones that came out after the games.
Yes, he has.
So
he has apparently finally reconciled with CD Projekt Red over this.
Yeah, so like, I'm calling bullshit. The Netflix series would not exist without the games, and they're drawing heavily on the games too. But so okay, so like I made this comment.
That the show is a adaptation of the book stories and not the game stories.
Well, but again, I'm saying yes, technically. Because some of the stuff in the games also happened in the books. But in the series, I remember watching this sequence and thinking, God, that sounds familiar. And I found a video, and I shared it with various people, but they essentially did a shot-for-shot comparison to a cinematic from Witcher 1 and the Netflix show. And it is spot on, like, shot for shot. That is an exact adaptation of the cinematic that was shown in the original game. Like just like the blocking and the direction of the scene, like, it is obvious that they pulled entire inspiration for this sequence from the game, which is a story that appears in the novel. And it got me thinking, like, that's a thing that I don't remember ever seeing before this show. Like, there's a sordid past of game adaptations and movies, and like, there's some of them that people like. Like, I like a lot of them. I like the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah, it's got great music.
it wasn't true to the game.
It's a terrible movie. It's got great music.
I liked the movie. Like, I thought it was fine. It was.
It's fun. It's just not
it's
good.
a fun movie, but it's not a great movie, and it's also not true to the game. Like, there's a blend of characters from the first two games in that movie. It's an amalgamation.
Right.
Silent Hill,
because video games are baby things for babies, and no serious movie or even unserious movie would be made out of a baby thing for babies.
Silent Hill was another one that people threw out there, and I like the Silent Hill movie, but it's kind of a weird mishmash of a bunch of things that sort of happen in Silent Hill games.
Yeah, or like Resident Evil.
And Resident Evil's the same way. Like, Resident Evil, people threw out their first Resident Evil movie. And again, I like it. It's fine. But it's inspired by the game, and it doesn't represent the game.
Yes.
So this is the first time I had seen content in a live-action media that maps one-to-one to something that happened in a game.
At this point, I feel like I have to say that, please no.
He totally found a bomb and threw it at a thing. That's straight out of the game.
Different mediums require different stories, different approaches to storytelling.
Yeah.
This is true.
God, would a movie be so boring if you actually fought as much proportionally...
Trash.
What?
As much trash as you do in a game?
No, just even games that don't have that. Like, can you imagine a Dark Souls movie that was just, like, 95% walking slowly through dark hallways with the shield up and fighting things and 5% talking? Because that's, like, the game. Like, games have so much more random fighting than would be tolerable in movies. Also, if somebody got a hold of that and did just constant shaky cam, I'd be done. It'd be terrible. You could do it.
A movie that's in first person.
Yeah, that's horrible. But I still think, like, Mass Effect would make an amazing TV show.
Yeah, if you cut out
could pretty much...
You'd have to do a lot of cutting.
Yeah, you'd have to cut, like, 90% of the fighting.
Right, and you would basically have to cherry pick the best missions that happen in Mass Effect.
Oh, no, you keep all the missions. You just cut 90% of the combat.
You don't keep all the missions.
It's fair. Not the side missions, definitely.
Not even all the main missions, not in the first game.
Fair.
But I think you could, like, come up with a decision tree that you follow that gives you some of the best parts of story. Because, like, in those games, if you are really judicious about your usage of choices, you can kind of get all the options in one. There's very few things that are exclusionary of each other.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't have the same kind of, like, shot-for-shot recreation that you're talking about, just because it takes a lot of cinematics work in games that is not usually done, but is, like, all about movies. Like, the cinematography is kind of like the bread and butter of setting up movies, whereas in games it's more scripting.
But, like, there's certain very cinematic games that I think would translate more directly than others.
Or where you could at least maintain the actual story of the game with the actual story beats.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, that's the big difference So, like, yes, this was a shot-for-shot recreation of something that I remembered from the first game. But, like, you could do something similar, but it's just the story remains whole cloth. Not this weird blended mess of a bunch of different games stuck together. So often, like, these video game adaptations are just like, yeah, I remember playing this once. It gave me this feeling, so I'm just gonna kind of go with that and, like, write my own story set in this universe, and we're gonna pretend like it's representative of the game.
Or if it's a game that's not set on Earth, transport the protagonist to Earth so that you can set it on Earth.
Exactly. Like, I fully feel like the Monster Hunter movie that's in the works is going to be a complete mess because it's being set on Earth, from what I can tell.
I'll be surprised if it's not. But yeah, but I joke. But a lot of that as well is that until recently there hasn't been anybody high enough up in the bureaucracy of filmmaking that knows or cares anything about video games beyond being an IP that can be exploited.
I mean, yeah, I mean, and also like back in the mid 2000s heyday of video game movies that were terrible. Like back then, movies were still bigger than games.
Mm-hmm.
But games are more than twice the size of the movie industry now.
I think it's more than that now, isn't it? Like significantly more.
Games are bigger than music and movies combined. They're still like a shade behind television, but television has had a huge uptick recently, like commensurate with the growth of games.
Well, and I guess it depends on where you're drawing the line between television and Netflix and Amazon and all of the online streaming options.
It's not so much the delivery mechanism, it's the production mechanism.
Yeah.
So like movies are feature length films. TV shows are shorter episodes, shorter episodic. Shorter episodic is huge right now.
I do have to give credit, like the Warcraft movie, while it was not a stellar movie, I think it did a pretty good job of trying to tell the story of the Warcraft universe.
In fairness, there are a lot of game stories that with significant portions that you just kind of hand wave past because whatever, it's a game. Fewer now, but
yeah. Like that said, I absolutely want like a Yakuza movie that has scenes of Kiryu racing slot cars. Or beating up a TV crew.
Okay,
the Yakuza game series is so good and insane.
So I think a Yakuza movie would work if you gave it kind of the Scott Pilgrim treatment, where there's some fourth wall breaking a little bit, where we know this is kind of nonsense.
I mean, honestly, it'd probably work better as an episodic TV show, just like alternating serious and completely bonkers off the wall episodes.
I was thinking like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, that'd be great.
Where you have this incredibly like dour, serious protagonist who is the straight man for literally everything else that's happening in the entire world. And it's just like complete wacky nonsense because that's pretty much how the game goes. But also he's this very serious protagonist.
So have any of you seen the Netflix series Black Summer?
No.
It is a zombie series, so that probably rules it out for several of you. But it does an interesting thing where each of the episodes is kind of from a different point of view and retreads some of the same ground. So I could see that kind of a narrative structure working for Yakuza, where like this is an episode about this character, and like this character's telling the story, and then somebody else is telling the story, and they're totally different stories, but they're the same events.
Okay, that would be amazing. Just every episode is, what is that, like fourth person? I don't even know what the term for that kind of storytelling is. But it's like, it's about Kiryu, but it's not from Kiryu's perspective ever. He's just a consistent entity.
Do it as like a documentary style where they're talking to all these people that have interacted with Kiryu.
Yeah, that'd be great. You have it. Well, you have a different narrative style for every character. So it's like the like elementary school girl is talking to her friends or whatever about Dance Dance Revolution guy.
That would work. Yeah.
Just the legend of Kiryu.
I guess part of it too is like, once upon a time, I could think of things being adapted into movies, but I think movies are just too truncated of a medium, and I think a lot of video game stories would play better as a series.
It's so, sort of as a tangent, but it's super fascinating to me that while the appetite for, like, the common criticism is that the appetite that people have for, like, their attention span is a lot shorter, that seems to be the opposite seems to be true of TV shows. Like, movies are definitely starting to fall off because, yeah, you're right. You can only fit so much in 2 hours, and movies are longer. Like, movies are crazy long now, like longer than most people want to deal with.
Well, and so there's a whole other aspect of that, of why I watch streamed media so much more often than movies is because I don't want to go to the theater. I don't particularly enjoy the theater going experience.
Yeah,
now,
same.
If they came up with a service that gave me first run in-home streaming movies, I would watch a lot more movies. But by the time it gets released on video, I'm using quotes, because it's not actually, like, I mean, it's like through your cable service, or nobody rents movies, but, or Amazon, or whoever you're renting a movie through, by the time that happens, the hype has died down for me, and I might as well just wait for it to come out on cable, or Netflix, or some tertiary streaming service. Like, the desire to see it is when it's in the theater, but it's not enough of a desire to get me to the theater, because going to the theater is not really a social experience for me. And it's super easy for us to, sit at home and watch, whatever's on Netflix. So I have to think that at least factors into some of this.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, there's a difference in the way we're consuming media.
Yeah.
Rather than consuming one thing for 3.5 hours, you consume 12 hours worth of something in 30-minute chunks.
Yep. And you can do it from the comfort of your home, where you have a friendly restroom and snacks from your kitchen.
You start and stop at any time you want.
Yep.
Notably, I think that even though they clearly filmed the entire thing all in one go and could have released it in binge mode, I think that the week by week drop of Mandalorian episodes, somebody thought real hard about that one, and very successfully.
Oh yeah, because the anticipation keeps the buzz going.
And people have time to process and talk about each episode before the next one happens.
And there's time for people to gush about it and get other people on board, and then they can be like, oh, there's only like one episode to watch so far. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'm not 37 episodes behind before I can even have a conversation about this. It's you can sit down in an afternoon and catch up on The Mandalorian.
And 4 weeks in, a new episode drops, new exciting things happened, the buzz gets going again.
Well, and I also really this is something that I first saw with AMC shows, where they have 2 short seasons a year instead of 1 season a year. And I honestly like that too, to where you got 6 to 8 episodes in a row, and then you've got a break, and it allows people to catch up between the breaks if they come in late. And with The Mandalorian, I greatly appreciate that it's in the neighborhood of 30 minutes rather than in the neighborhood of an hour and a half. But the difference there is they're not making room for commercials.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how things evolve. I question if movies can survive in their current form. Because I spent some time playing that, Fantasy Movie League. And it's interesting to watch the numbers as a result of that. Because when there's a big thing playing in the theater, it really sucks the oxygen out of the room for everything else that's happening that week. Nothing else does reasonably well at that point. The one big movie of the week does really well, and if it's an Avengers or a Star Wars or something like that, every other thing in the theater suffers horribly. Because people aren't chain watching movies the way that they used to. When I was in high school, we would go to the theaters and watch 3 things in a row in a single afternoon. We would time it so that when we got out of one, we rolled into the next one, and then we rolled into the next one, and that was the thing that we did that day. And I don't think anybody views movies that way anymore.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So, unintended circumstance of watching The Witcher is I have been playing the hell out of The Witcher 3, and that game is way better than I originally gave it credit for. It is a really good game. There is some shit you have to get past in that game, namely the gratuitous tits and ass, but it has some of the most interesting stories I've seen in a game of that style in a really long time. I don't know, I have found it insanely compelling, and have been playing it for 3 days straight, to the absence of everything else. If you can somehow make it to Novigrad, the story and the political machinations becomes insanely interesting.
I haven't really given that game enough time. I played a bit of it and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. There's some stuff that I don't really love and that bugs me, but there's a whole bunch of there are a lot of people whose opinions that I trust a lot who love that game dearly.
The density
and I'm consistently
and the quality.
surprised about that.
Like, so earlier today I was talking that I am pretty sure that so The Witcher probably borrowed heavily on the Assassin's Creed style of game, but AC Origins came out 2 years after Witcher 3, and having played a bunch of AC Origins, it is like taking everything from Witcher 3 and how that game works. And I have a feeling that somebody played Witcher 3 and is like, oh, we want to make AC open world. Like, this is the way that we should do it. The difference is, in AC, there's a lot of filler content. Like, there's a lot of fetch quests, basically. And it's fun, and it's sometimes interesting, but, like, you're doing a lot of run and get the potion from the market for this person. Witcher, as a whole, is just as dense. Like, there's so much stuff going on in a certain area. But, like, almost all of it has been of extreme quality. Like, the things that are happening are all interesting, and they're not just rehashings of the generic MMO quest. And the decisions that are made during the quests, like, carry on and come back in unexpected ways later. I mean, I've run into NPCs that I have seen, like, just in a really short quest that later helped me out because I helped them out in a different quest. Like, I was running a quest where I had to basically, like, sneak into a warehouse, and probably 6 or 7 hours earlier, I did a quest where, like, I saved this dwarf along the side of the road, and when I get to this warehouse, that dwarf happens to be the guard guarding the warehouse. And he's like, you know, so long as you don't just take everything, you know, I'll look the other way as you get into the warehouse. And I don't know what the alternative to that would have been. Like, I don't know how that quest would have resolved had I not done that. And the only reason why I did that is because I was just randomly walking along the countryside and found a stranded dwarf and decided to help him out. So it's definitely one of those games where, like, there are unforeseen consequences constantly. And I find that really interesting. And I realize, like, it's a game from 2015, so it's old news at this point. But it is absolutely something I am experiencing now.
I mean, it's one of those games that I know I probably should have given more of a shot to, but I kind of got stuck in the first zone.
Yeah, and honestly, like, it gets better each zone you move through. Because that first zone is kind of boring, but it's also mostly just a tutorial zone. Like, if you can give it enough time to get to the city of Novigrad, that's when the world really becomes super layered and rich, because it's a huge city, like, and there's, you know, faction warfare happening, like, there's multiple crime bosses, you know, that you may or may not interact with. There's different political organizations. There's this church full of zealots that have witch hunters that are, like, you know, hunting down mages and burning them at the stake, or hunting down any kind of others and burning them at the stake. So this represents, like, the second game ever I have been proud to side with mages and elves. And that's basically, it's this and the Dragon Age universe. But, like, I say that, and it also feels vastly different than that Dragon Age. Anyway, it's well worth a look, and it's super cheap now. And it still looks gorgeous. Like, in 4K, it is insanely gorgeous. And if Cyberpunk can deliver with, like, a fraction of the fidelity, I am now super interested in Cyberpunk. Okay. Slay the Spire. I have never played this game. I know basically what it is, but
I hadn't played this game.
It did officially come out this year.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, I haven't played this game since it came out. And there's a lot of, like, I'm really enjoying the new robot. So when I was playing it, there was only the fighter and the thief. And the robot is very much the me play style of build up a whole bunch of resources and watch your little machine explode. And, like, building your deck so that you're building up resources and then, like, slowly turn over turn, you're incrementally getting more powerful.
Wait, you like building machines in games?
Yeah,
Engines?
I know. Yes. Stop the presses, I know.
I know. Super shocked.
But this game is letting me do that now, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, I felt a little bit that way with the Thief and Poison decks. But, so Slay the Spire, I guess we should refresh people. This is a deck building game where you are rogueliking your way through a series of encounters and fighting things with a specific, like, you draw a certain number of cards, you have a certain amount of energy each turn, you spend your resources to attack, to block, and you sort of get to know what your enemies are going to do to you. So it's pretty deterministic, actually.
And you're doing all this because a whale god told you to.
Because of what? Sure, the story is not something I really know much about.
There have been several games inspired by this one. I think my favorite of those is probably Dicey Dungeons. I haven't played much of Slay the Spire, the actual original, though.
What do you mean by the actual original?
I mean, there are a lot of games inspired by Slay the Spire now.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the game I'm talking about?
It has become almost a genre of its own.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. But yeah, I'm playing this and it's very fun. The robot is very fun. So Dicey Dungeon is a game I should check out, is what I'm hearing?
Yes.
All right. Point noted. Yeah, it's very fun. But yeah, like, the daily climbs are fun and frequently unique. I don't know. This game's cool. If you haven't given it a shot, give it another shot.
Okay, so the next two topics. Is the next one going to be longer than the end of the show? Do we have a lot to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield?
I don't know that we have a ton to talk about.
Okay, well, let's dig in then.
So, I've started playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, and there's a new mechanic in this version.
There's always a new mechanic.
There's Dynamaxing, right?
Yes.
Is that new?
Yes, it's brand new.
Okay. So I kind of want to talk about Dynamaxing, because it's sort of the thing that I keep getting tripped up on. Dynamaxing is this thing where you make your Pokemon much, much better temporarily in certain scenarios, but also much simpler. Like, you can craft your Pokemon to have these intricate movesets, but it doesn't matter because any electric attack is going to be Max Thunder.
Yes.
And so, I don't know how I feel about that.
I kind of love it because I do this already. I basically dumb down every single Pokemon I encounter and get rid of all the debuffs and just give them the biggest attacks ever because I don't really like combating Pokemon. It is a game about catching monsters for me. So, like, I just want the biggest thing that gets me the monster the fastest.
So yeah, I go for replace all of my Pokemon moves with Blasty moves because I have never been convinced of the stat game. Mm-hmm. Like, either fights don't last long enough, or...
I have a Munchlax who would like a word with you.
Does it know curse?
It doesn't know curse, but maybe it should. But it's just... Its nature and whatnot has its defenses super high, and so the ability to stockpile and then swallow means that I can be super tanky with this Munchlax.
Sure, but like...
You could have gotten to that battle 10 times faster by two-shotting something.
Right.
Yeah,
that's how I
fair.
tend to feel about
it's like
it.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah, it's
But
like, cool, I can make big tanky things, but I can also just two-shot everything.
I'm sort of on the other side in which I value offensive buffs, because if I use this offensive buff and one-shot this thing, then I can one-shot everything else that comes my way for the rest of the battle, and then it's done.
That's fair.
Self-buffs.
That's fair. I have never been in a situation... I don't feel like I've ever been, with the exception of, like, gym battles, I don't think I've ever...
I mean, that's mostly where it gets used.
Yeah.
Because normal trainers don't have enough otherwise.
Right, exactly. And like, it's not like random encounters, which is the majority of what I deal with. Like, the biggest risk that I run when I'm playing Pokemon is, oh no, I'm out of power points for my abilities.
I mean, I won't lie, I basically only ever use one Pokemon when I'm playing Pokemon, and brute force my way through it by leveling it up past the point where I don't need to care. Like that is my answer to every Pokemon game. It's like, meh, okay, so I'm now tackling this gym, and it's a level 10 gym, but my Pokemon are like level 20. Okay.
So you're Ash from the TV series.
Basically.
With a horrifically over-leveled Pikachu that mostly doesn't listen.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like, I have Grookey. It doesn't matter. Grookey is the thing that I use almost all the time, unless I am going to a specific gym, and then I have a single Pokemon that is of the type that basically is the I win button for that gym, and I just use it.
Oh man, you're going to have such a fun time when you get to the Dragon Gym.
No, I'll just overlevel it. It'll be fine.
I love that gym so much for being non-traditional, but it's definitely the trip if you haven't seen some of the tactics in there before.
But I also tend to get bored with Pokemon games well before I get to the point of actually beating them. It's like maybe I am not the consumer for this game, even though I tend to play them for a while. But yeah, like I basically use the same tactics I use in Final Fantasy. I'm just going to lever this over, grind until it's no longer a thing.
This game brought back the experiences based on the level difference between what you're fighting and your current Pokemon.
Well, so the other thing this game did that I really like is it introduced the hinterlands.
I spent a lot of time in the hinterlands.
I've spent a lot of time in the hinterlands.
I spent a lot of time in the hinterlands in this game. The hinterlands being the wild zones, where, it's really funny because I am not used to a Pokemon game just punching me in the face as hard as possible.
Surprise!
But
here are raid battles.
Well, not even raid battles aren't the problem. It's the
you can run into a level 42 Snorlax at when you're level 15.
It was an Onix, and I was level 15. I was like, okay, cool. I'll go catch that Onix. That Onix is level
you're not.
26.
No, I'm not going to do this thing you just said.
This is the first game that has limited the level at which you can catch things, because it is also the first game that has thrown Zone Sweeper Pokemon at you.
I mean, again, I'm mostly okay because aforementioned, it's really fun.
But yes, if you come up on an FF14 style bridge in the wild area, maybe don't cross it.
There's a guy there to tell you not to cross it.
There's a guy there in FF14 too.
It does some interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it a lot.
I probably would have played more had I not gone down a path of madness, which is leveling a seasonal character in Diablo 3 on the Switch.
So, I hear a story of max raid encounters. How do I encounter those things?
It's the Pillars of Light in the wild area.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, and I was like, there's not a lot going on here.
There isn't initially. Eventually plot happens, and you start to see unique Pokemon there.
Oh, okay. So eventually plot will happen, and I will then start seeing stuff happening?
Yes, but also some of these are more difficult than anticipated. Although some of this is because your NPC helpers are kind of bad. Sometimes.
I was going to say, I have not run into a problem yet.
I mean, it's mostly been Dynamax to win. I mean, not that I've played a ton of them.
They get a little harder as you go through the game, and then they get much harder near the end of the game.
How far is everyone in the game at this point?
I am 2 badges in.
I'm 12 minutes in.
Yeah, you and I are basically in the same place, Kodra. I am in the place where I can get the 3rd badge.
Well, so I am also playing this game almost exclusively with my son.
Okay.
So it's very amusing. He makes most of the non-gameplay decisions. So we have the entire cast of Winnie the Pooh characters in our Pokédex right now.
I love it.
I mean, it seems like winning to me.
We have a number of characters referencing mom, grandmothers, grandfathers. He's picked out clothes. He likes bright pink pajamas, as Tam would put them.
I will say, this is the first game I have done a thing, and I am so happy at this decision. I have never liked the male characters, ever.
I mean, they tend to be worse character designs through most of the Pokemon games.
Yeah, so as soon as they gave me a choice, I switched, and I haven't switched back.
I should have done this years ago, because, The female character is absolutely the correct choice.
I have all the best clothes. I have all the best hats. I have all the best hairstyles. It's great. It's so much better. Like, the design is so much better.
So you're already winning.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I'm wondering how much more I would have enjoyed all of the other outings had I made this decision back then. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. I don't even know what this next topic's about.
So, Pokemon games are overall kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons is that in any battles which would otherwise be actually hard, like rival battles, like gym leader battles, whenever you knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon, you get the message, hey, your opponent's about to bring in this other thing your Pokemon might not be as strong against. Would you like to switch?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, that's an option. It's been an option since the first game.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even know this until you mentioned it just before the show.
So in order to make the game slightly less face roll, you can turn it on to set, which no longer gives you that prompt, and you're stuck with whatever you had when you knock out your opponent's Pokemon. This is how it works versus other people, like if you actually do PvP, and also how it works for other trainers against you.
Yeah.
So I feel like it makes the game slightly less face roll and a little more fair.
I mean, I almost set that option just because, like I said, I use exactly one Pokemon at a time.
Also, if you're doing that, it makes the game go way faster.
I am not going to change. Like, I beat the shit out of you with Grookey. It's fine. Or, Emo Boy.
Yeah, speedrunners all absolutely do this because it saves time to not be asked that question every single time. And they're also mostly using one Pokemon. I just thought that was an interesting note because some things become, like, again, stat changing becomes way better if you expect to have this one Pokemon in for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. Mostly, Sword and Shield makes me realize how much I just wish they would blanket release all of the things that were on the 3DS for the Switch, because I really don't like playing the 3DS.
The 3DS
I do
was
really
fine,
enjoy
but
playing
we have
the
the Switch now. I thought the 3DS was fine, but we have the Switch now, and I don't want to go back.
The biggest
I guess I
problem
should
that I had
rephrase.
with...
I think the 2DS was fine.
I mean, yeah, the 2DS is fine. The biggest problem I have with the 2DS, though, is, like, especially in the Monster Hunter games, you have that not quite a thumbstick, which is not fine.
No, that was never fine.
And I don't know how many games actually use that.
Monster Hunter, basically. Most other games either didn't have enough 3D movement to make it worthwhile, or just automatically controlled the camera, like games like God of War would do.
Okay. Any other takeaways or points about Pokemon? Or anything else?
I think we're good.
I don't think so.
So, hopefully you dealt with my voice okay. And I still have one, which amazed me. But hopefully I am fully healed by next week. And I think we have a show next week. We will see. Like, we have somehow avoided taking off shows for some of these holidays, so we'll see if we can still dodge that one for next week.
Holidays falling on Wednesdays.
I think it just went weird because, they're on Wednesdays this year.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.